Welcome to the premiere episode of Meeting Our Needs, the show about people and organizations in Arlington that meet the needs of the community. I'm your host, Nathan Bynum. Today's episode focuses on the need for empowerment. We'll be learning about 3 organizations that empower young people in Arlington. I'm here with Patrick Brennan from Communities in Schools, Sara Strehle Duke from Encore Stage, and Martha Nowlan from Our Task. Thank you all for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. So I thought I'd start with the basic question of how does your organization help to empower young people? And we'll actually start with you, Sara, and just go right on down the line.
Absolutely. So I'm the executive director of Encore Stage and Studio. We're a children's theater here in Arlington, and we're coming up on our 50th anniversary. And what we do is we work with kids ages 4 all the way up through college students to produce fun, energetic, and exciting theater programs. So that might be a production or a summer camp, a class. We have a blast. And, it really goes back to getting kids out there, building self-confidence and teamwork.
I can imagine that it must take a lot for a lot of kids to get up on a stage in front of hundreds of people and sing or even say lines.
Absolutely. Some kids are ready to jump in. They're natural hams. They love to be out there. But other kids, it really does take time. And theater's all about trust. You get on stage, you have to trust the other people you're on stage with. You have to trust the stage manager that the lights will come on. And when you work together in a team, you build that trust. So it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. And Patrick, how does Communities in Schools help empower youth in this community?
Well, the Communities in Schools is a sort of a national organization, but it's a Communities in Schools of Northern Virginia just started this past spring. So the way we empower students is it's an asset-based program. So we recognize that to keep kids in school, which is our mission, is to keep kids in school and to achieve, is that we have to make sure that they have a sort of a set of assets that they're always going to have that's going to allow them to be successful and to be empowered. It starts with relationships. It starts with a caring adult relationship that's a caring one between a student and an adult. Then there's a whole issue of safety, to feel safe at home, to feel safe at your school, to feel safe in the community. Then there's the healthy piece, right? The healthy start and a healthy future. So there's nutrition involved, making sure a kid has enough to eat, has health care, has dental. The fourth is a marketable skill. So right now we're dealing in high schools. We're in 2 high schools right now. We're at Wakefield High School and Arlington Middle High School. And so one of them is the issue of making sure that they have food and that they also have a marketable skill. So we talk about internships and how to what do you do after you graduate. So it's not just graduating, but it's also trying to empower them to think about what is the next step for you. And finally, the last asset that we work on is giving back, is community service and service learning. This idea that it's not just about sort of filling somebody up, it's about connecting people to the community and making sure that they have something to give back and to be of value, which I'm sure is a big part of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I found it interesting that you talked about a trusting relationship, or a safe relationship with an adult, and you talked about trust to go on stage. Yeah. So these are some very...
It is.
It seems like a basic part of empowering people is to provide them with that safe, trusting base.
It is. Bill Milliken, who is the founder of Community Schools, actually lives in Arlington, and he's always famous for saying that no kid's ever been empowered or been saved by a program. It's always about a relationship that helps kids, and so that's been sort of the cornerstone, I think, of Communities in Schools.
Great. Thanks. And Martha, talk a little bit about how Our Task empowers youth, and you also have a connection to the environment, so...
Yes.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, basically, what Our Task is about is educating and empowering and activating youth, young people. We kind of use the 2 terms interchangeably, but it's mostly about kind of my generation, people who are kind of high school through young professionals, essentially. And the idea is that our generation lacks knowledge and wisdom. We don't have the experience that older generations have. We lack power. We don't have a huge voice in government and politics, in businesses, anything like that, and we lack money. And so that makes it really hard for us to actually impact the communities around us. And so what Our Task is about is empowering young adults to really impact the world and make changes for the future. And the environmental part of that is that my generation are inheriting the earth, and we're going to be the ones dealing with all of the problems that are being created right now. And so basically, we're the ones who should really have a say in what's going on and how we fix it.
Yeah, so that the ones who are going to have to pay for the environmental mistakes we're making now will have a bigger voice rather than a smaller voice.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
That's the hope.
That is the
That's
hope.
what we're working towards.
I'd like to go deeper into how you're doing that. What are the strategies you're using? What are the challenges? Let's go ahead and go back
Sure.
to the Encore Stage. And how do you get a kid up on stage? Like, what strategies do you use to empower kids to go out there and make these amazing presentations?
Absolutely. So we have a number of different formats within our organization, but say you come to summer camp, which is one of the ways we touch the most kids. We'll have about a little under 500 elementary school students spend their summer with us this summer. And we have 2-week camps where kids come. We start building trust through theater games. We start working together with our script. Take it step by step by step, and we lay it out logically for students. What's really exciting is they get to work with professional teaching artists who are often actors. Sometimes they're designers who have come into the classroom who really help them to understand the creative process. But it really does come back to that fundamental trust, building trust with each other, with your friends, and gaining that self-confidence through repetition. So that's why you have rehearsal, right? So every time we practice the show, we get better, we feel more comfortable. So that's how you really take it with younger students. And those same basic sort of principles apply as you get older. We start to add, the craft of acting on top of that. What does it mean to be a character? How do you empathize with that person? So it just sort of builds at each level, but with that very basic young group, you can get a lot accomplished and really help them to gain confidence through that experience.
Sure.
I can verify that. My 5-year-old was in the tour program, and so we had a lot of floor shows around dinner time after her 2 weeks with you. It was great. It was really excellent.
Fun.
And I love it. It's taking, we can use what we do in class as a springboard for the imagination. Kids are so creative naturally. I mean, they don't need any help. And they can take small items and turn it into a show. They can imagine a stage on the fireplace in their living room, wherever it is. And
Sure.
I think that's one of the best things is, you learn it in class and you take that into, whether it's home or school, you really take it out.
It can kind of enhance your imagination.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, great. And with communities and schools, how do you empower, because I'm guessing you're mostly empowering kids that want to be there in Encore Stage.
Generally, they have shown some interest in drama or their parent thinks they'll be good at drama. That's right.
And you're working with kids who might not want to be in school, who probably those are the main target of who you're working with.
Yeah, that's true.
So that
I think
different.
It is different. I mean, it's different in that a lot of students want to be in school, but for a variety of reasons have a tough time staying in school. Yeah. They have a lot of pressures that they're dealing with. I mean, right now we're dealing at the high school level, but communities and schools is nationally is in elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. And currently in Arlington, we've partnered with the 2 high schools. So we're dealing with teenagers, and for them, the challenges are, as I talked about those assets, everything from health to security to just needing academic help, could be second language issues. So it's a little harder, and it's really about whatever the population needs to sort of meet them where they're at in the high school. Usually, with what the key is for us is we have a site coordinator in the building, so it's a full-time person who's there dedicated to nothing more than just making sure that so the kids stay on track. So the principals, the social workers, the guidance counselors, everyone sort of identifies sort of a group of kids that need just a little extra attention. And so it's really working in concert with all the great resources that already exist in a lot of our schools to make sure the students have that sort of person and have that ability to sort of keep going.
So it's almost as if there's a resource that the kid could latch onto to stay in school, and then there has to be someone there to make sure that kid gets that resource, because otherwise they might not use it.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Maybe even do you ever connect kids with fun things in school? To keep
she
them
doesn't have the
school
corner on all the fun.
Wait, there's fun involved in school?
That's a need too.
Absolutely, because I mean, part of it is you want them to feel connected to the community that they're in. So some of them might be into theater, some of them might be into social issues, some of them might be into sports. So we work with everybody to make sure that they feel valued and that whatever skills that they have can be shown. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's a matter of straightening out some other things so that they can enjoy the other pieces. I mean, our main focus within the school, though, is that they're in the building and that they're going to class, right? So there's that academic piece. I mean, the mission is graduate. But we also recognize it's not about sort of, making sure that they're chained to their desks, but they're actually sort of felt sort of apart and connected to the community that they're in.
Great. So Martha, with our task, you're working most likely, I'm guessing, with people who want to be there.
Yes.
But the goal is much more long-term. I mean, you get to have this awesome production, which I got to see The Little Mermaid, and it was so much fun. And then it's done, and you've done this amazing production, and you've achieved your goal within a matter of months, or however long. Your goal is to keep the planet here for us for generations to come. So how do you empower kids to face such a big goal? Or young people, I should say, because we're talking about people your age and I'm sure a little bit older and a little bit younger.
Yeah. Well, there's the really big picture, and what our task focuses on more in terms of our programming and such is just kind of getting that first step and educating, first of all, because there's a lack of education, environmental education in high schools. And even if you're in an environmental major in college, sometimes you're not getting the big picture education. And so a big part of what we do for empowering is just making sure that people know the facts. And then creating a community is one of the things that we really kind of pride ourselves on. And so we do that with, our main program is a conference during the summer. And so what that does is it brings people together and it makes them feel like they're not alone. And so they're not just this little, fish in the sea at their high school or something, and they feel like there are other people out there who care about the same issues they care about. And that makes them feel more like they can do something about it. And so, our task's mission is basically, our vision is a mutually enhancing relationship between humans and Earth. And that's kind of what we'd like to see happening, but what we're really doing is getting that started and empowering young adults to start that process. I'd love to say that what we're actually doing is influencing policy and stuff, but I think what we're really doing is influencing young adults who are going to influence policy,
Sure. And if you influence enough young adults, then it does have a ripple effect. You said something that really piqued my interest, which was making kids feel like they're a part of a bigger group of kids that care about this. In your case, in our task, it's the environment. I'm not the only one who cares about the environment, therefore I have power, which seems like another core piece of empowerment. And I'm wondering if your organizations have, communities and schools and Encore Theater has a component of feeling like you're a part of a bigger group that helps empower kids.
I mean, certainly for us, it's one of our major assets, right, is this idea of sort of giving back and of service, because students don't want to feel like they're a charity case. And we all know that everyone has value. And so you have to find that value, and you have to be able to give them the tools to feel part of something larger than they are. When we get into a school, a lot of times students are just first happy for the attention and the support, and then they're very quick to sort of start identifying and reaching out and how they can ultimately help other students. They become student leaders. They just naturally kids are just amazingly resilient.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really incredible if you give them the attention, if you build a relationship, if you give them these assets, they're very quick to sort of start connecting themselves to other pieces. It's really quite miraculous.
I agree. Something I like about Encore is we work with kids from Arlington primarily, but they also come from surrounding communities. And within Arlington, they come from all different elementary schools, different middle schools, and different high schools. So when you put together a cast, 25 students, maybe 2 of them go to school together, but most of the time it's going to be kids who don't know each other, and they have that chance to plug in and be like, gee, there's more kids who like this than just a handful of kids at my school who enjoy this. So they get to kind of reach out. I really liked what you said about mentoring. We really expect peer mentoring to happen in our programs. So we look to those high school students to help bring along the 4th and 5th grade kids, to be gentle with them, to help show them the ropes. How does the production work? What does it mean to be an actor? And it works very naturally. I like it because adults, we don't have to really get involved. The kids do a great job of stepping into those leadership roles, just, you know, because they've seen it happen for them and they like to give it back.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Neat. Yeah, and it also links back to what you're talking about, bringing them in with people who've already been doing the environmental movement, you know, and mentorship can really go a long way. Yeah.
That's one of our, well, I think one of our big assets is that we have a lot of people who are, you know, middle-aged or older. I mean, our executive director is, I won't tell you how old he is, but you know him.
I do, yes.
And
he
he's
looks
been around
great
for a while,
his age.
and he's had a lot of experience in foundations and environmental nonprofits, and kind of in political environmentalism, and that knowledge really helps because I can learn from him how do things work and how do you actually affect change. And without that mentorship, it's very hard to feel like you can get anything done.
Sure. I'd like to make it specific with this next question, and can you think of a success story that you can tell about empowerment, where somebody that came into your organization and maybe wasn't quite so sure, and now they're really showing that they believe in themselves and they can do amazing things? And anyone who'd like to start?
I'll jump in. We have a student. Her name is Christine Schindler. She's actually in college now. I think she's will be a junior at Duke University. She started with us when she was 9. You know, young, shy kid, got involved, did lots and lots of productions, and really grew throughout her time with Encore. She went into, after acting for a while, we also offer technical opportunities for students to work backstage as assistant stage manager, properties master, and eventually become our production stage manager, you know, who we leave the keys with. You know, they run the whole production. So
Talk
Christine,
about trust.
Exactly. That was a little scary sometimes.
And empowerment.
And empowerment, I know. They're in charge, and if, you know, if something goes wrong backstage, it's up to them to problem solve and figure it out. But Christine had gone through this. She'd been a production stage manager, and she went off to college. And she's an engineering student, so she, you know, didn't pursue drama, but really could take those things that she learned there. She did this project that was selected by the Clinton Global Initiative. And she went to the conference, and she didn't realize that Bill Clinton was going to start talking about her project, like from the stage, and she comes up and is getting interviewed. And she tells me this a couple months after it happened. I was like, oh my gosh, Christine. And she said, really, I fell back on everything I'd learned at Encore to say cool, calm, and collected, to, you know, listen in, to focus, and to really, you know, present her project the way she wanted it to be presented. So I think that's a great example of a student really applying what they learned in drama to something completely different. Because we know most of the kids who work with us, they're not going to be movie stars, they're not going to go onto Broadway, but they can take all the great things they've learned and apply them, you know, to their professional lives and their careers when they're adults. So she's always one of my favorites.
That's a great story.
It is a good story.
And it shows how there is a link between, when you empower kids, you never know what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
They might get involved with social issues. They might, you never know.
You never know, exactly.
That's amazing. Other stories, success stories where I feel like
Let's break the chain. You go.
Okay,
You go next.
okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
Well, mine's a little unique in that I'm still new to our task and still meeting people. And so the truth is, my best example is me.
All right.
So, I mean, I graduated from college with a BS degree in environmental studies in May, and, you know, less than a year ago. And I was searching for jobs, and, you know, what do you know? I'm the deputy director of our task. And it really means a lot to have that trust and feel like, you know, someone is willing to give me that responsibility, and they trust that I can do that. And that's very empowering. And it makes me feel like, you know, there are a lot of places I could go from here, whether it's staying and watching our task grow, or, moving on to go to law school, or there are, you know, plenty of things going on in my head, but it's just a chance that I don't think I would have had anywhere else. I mean, the opportunity is unique, I think, for someone my age.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And is it true that you were part of organizing the conference that happened, or involved with that?
No, I've only been around for a few months.
Just a few months. All right.
I'm the conference organizer for the 2014 conference.
So that's already on your plate, organizing.
Yes.
Wow.
There are a lot of things on my plate.
How you holding up?
I'm okay. We're doing pretty well.
That's awesome.
And I love what I do, so
Yeah.
that makes a difference. And I believe in our task and its mission, so.
That's wonderful. And I happen to know Jerry, and he thinks
Yes.
you're doing a fabulous job.
He does tell me that every day.
Positive reinforcement. Very good.
And Patrick.
Well, I would say there's a lot of student stories. One student actually recently we were talking about is an AB student, very successful by every outward measure. Is doing very well. Is first generation, potentially going to college. And then we noticed, he started missing school. Like, nothing too crazy. Maybe once a week, maybe a half of this day. There was something going on that he clearly his behavior was changing a little bit, and there was just some signs that there was a little bit of something going on. So my site coordinator pulled him in, Daphne, and said, what's happening? And, there was no sort of, emotion. It was just more of like, it took a while. It was several conversations and just being around. And it really, once you sort of gain the level of trust, you realize that, he's just kind of terrified. He's like, yeah, I'm successful, but I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got a family obligations. I don't know what college looks like for me. Most of my focus was high school, and I haven't even thought about what's next. And so it started to eat him up, and he started to have a variety of different sort of negative behaviors, drinking, all sorts of, you just sort of fall, you sort of try to deflect. And so, really after you sort of have these conversations and you build on it, then it's like, okay, so let's think about all the resources in Arlington that can help you. A lot of them are right within Arlington Public Schools. A lot of them are with the Department of Human Services. There's all sorts of nonprofits. So it's for our role is just to make sure that he has someone he can speak to, and then how do we ultimately build you, sort of bring you back to where you need to be to have the resources. And he's doing great. And so now it's just a matter of planning. It's a matter of knowing what this means and what his obligations are to his family versus obligations for his own goals, and to sort of realign all those. So it's been really great. And I think the one thing that I think when people think about kids at risk, they think about the kids that are really sort of chronically sort of absent or don't care, or someone that are just don't have just the desire to learn. But there's so many students that are just below the radar for a variety of reasons that are just struggling. And they're not behavioral issues, they're not judicial issues, but it's sort of that quiet third that really just need someone to sort of to connect to.
Absolutely. And also I like how you bring in the cultural element. A lot of the times when you're empowering people, understanding their culture goes a long way.
Yes.
We're coming towards the end of the program, and I want to give everybody a chance to describe a person who you think would love to get involved with your organization. So what interests would make your organization just right as a volunteer opportunity, or maybe other kinds of support? What would you get to do if you got involved with your organization? And whoever, let's go ahead and start that actually with Sara.
I will jump in. So of course all of our participants are those kids. So if you know a child in your life who has lots of energy, has lots of creativity, or one who even wants to, find more of that inside themselves, I would direct them towards any drama program. It's a great way to explore yourself, and it's always a safe environment. It's a very friendly place. You can express who you are. So in terms of participants, find that kid in your life. To volunteer with us, we're always looking for people who are committed and want to make a difference and want to give back to those kids in their community. Great. So we have ushering opportunities at productions. It goes from the whole gamut to office help. And we also work with a lot of college students in internships to help build their resumes and to get them engaged in the field of working in the arts. Because we also want to make sure that we do have some arts managers out there for the future to help manage theater companies. So.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
we're always looking for volunteers. That's sort of that's our bedrock. That's how we reach kids. Tutors, mentors, academic. I mean, right now we're in the high school, so science, math, English tutors. We work with AFAC, the local food network, the food bank that distributes food in one of our schools every Wednesday in the Career Center. So someone that wants to sort of help with that. You know, I'd say the right volunteer is somebody that comes into sort of ready to meet students where they're at. I think we all sort of have an idea of what a high school student should or shouldn't be doing, but I think just to be open, to have a level of curiosity and empathy and just sort of be present would be great. And I know a lot of people in Arlington feel very busy, but I really think if you're able to sort of come into the schools, there's a level that you can get some out of it yourself. It's not just you sort of giving your time, it's also you get to sort of nurture, I think, a piece of yourself too, which is great.
Awesome. Yeah, I love connecting with younger people. It's a different kind of energy.
It is. It really is.
And Martha?
Yes, well, we have volunteers of all ages. We have volunteers who are in high school and interested in getting involved with something, you know, outside of their high school, and we have college students who are volunteers. We're also looking for interns, actually, for this semester, probably college students, where we just put the position descriptions out. But we also have a lot of volunteers who are older and more experienced and are able to serve as mentors. And you know, that doesn't even necessarily mean that they have to care a lot about environmental issues, but to care about the empowerment aspect of it and have some kind of skill that they can share. We have volunteers at AIM who help out and help with video editing and teaching some of those skills to high schoolers and college students who
Need to
could
get the
use
word
it.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're also hoping to get into high schools a little more in terms of being able to educate, because right now we have a pretty solid relationship with George Mason and a few other universities, but we really would like to start doing more work with high schools. So we'd love to get in there.
Anyone who works with youth and wants to get involved in helping them speak up about their future on this planet Earth.
And youth.
And youth as well. This is Nathan Bynum signing off for the first episode of Meeting Our Needs. A big thank you to Patrick, Sara, and Martha. Please take the time to check out the websites for Communities in Schools, Encore Stage, and RTAS to see how you can get involved. And remember, if one of these organizations resonates with you, you can meet your own need for community and contribution. Thanks for watching.